Okay, so gonna get started today. Today we're gonna cover 6.3 and 6.4 since we're a little behind. And both of those sections are pretty much covering the same exact thing. So it's almost like it's one big section, but split up into two. So we are gonna cover both of those today. We're gonna do 6.3 and 6.4 today. And then we'll do 6.5 and then 5.8 also on Thursday, which means the review and the test are going to be pushed to next week. So the test won't be due this Sunday. It'll be due next Sunday, November 15th. So just be expecting me to move that. So no test this week. Test will be next week. And then we're really going to have to force it to push to get everything in by the end of the semester. Okay, so let's remind ourselves the section 6.2, we were factoring trinomials, which means polynomials that have three terms. And what was special about those terms is all of the ones that we were factoring, the leading coefficient, which means the number in front of your x squared, was a 1. When that is the case, I call these the good trinomials because they're the easier method to factor. If it's just x squared, because remember what we're doing is we're unfoiling. We're going to try to get back to the parentheses that were foiled together to get this trinomial. So if you think about it that way, what would be the first step of FOIL? These two terms need to multiply together. And once they multiply together, they need to equal x squared. Well, there's only one way to do that. That's why these are the good trinomials. So x and x was the way all of those started out, right? That's the only way to get x squared. And then the second step was to figure out these terms, what goes in the last spots of the parentheses. And those numbers had to do two things. They had to multiply to equal that last term. So then we made a list of all the ways to do that. So how do you multiply to get 16? 16 times 1, 8 times 2, and 4 times 4. So that's kind of like our word bank, our number bank that we have to choose from. We only choose one pair though. The pair that we choose has to add to this middle number. So when you're looking at these pairs, which one of the pairs adds to 10? 8 and 2 does. Which means those are the numbers that we put in here. We need a positive 8 and a positive 2 that will add together to get positive 10. And anytime your signs were the same, right? Because to multiply to equal positive 16 and to add those same numbers together and get positive 10, I need the 8 and the 2 to both be positive. If your signs are the same like this, it doesn't matter where the 8 and 2 go. They can go in either spot. Okay, let's change things up a little bit. All I'm going to do is change this sign right here to a minus. So again, it starts off x and x to get the x squared. I'm actually still going to use the 8 and 2 pair. But now, what do they need to add to? They need to add to negative 10. Well, if I'm going to use 8 and 2 and add them together equal negative 10, I'm actually going to need them both to be negative, right? That doesn't mess up. They still multiply to equal positive 16, right? Because negative times a negative is still a positive 16. But now, since they are both negative, when I add those two numbers together, it gives me negative 10. What about when your signs are different, and what makes that happen? Again, it's a trinomial. Its leading coefficient is a 1, which makes it a good trinomial. We'll start it off with x and x. Good morning. So we'll start it off with x and x. Now, we need to find the numbers that multiply to equal -10. We're going to worry about our signs here in just a little bit. So let's just write out the ways to multiply to get 10, which will be 10 times 1. The other way is 5 times 2. So those are the two ways that multiply to equal 10. Now, I know that they need to multiply to equal -10. What do you automatically know about your signs if you're multiplying two numbers together and equaling a negative? Your signs have to be different, right? If you're going to multiply and equal a negative, you've got to have different signs. It doesn't matter where you put those signs. But if your signs are different like this, it is going to matter what numbers you put with those signs. You can't just put your numbers in either spot. So not only do we have to multiply to equal -10, which means I'm still using these pairs, but when I choose my pair, I'm going to have one of them be positive and one of them be negative. So now let's think about what we have to add to in the middle. We're going to add to -3. Now, a lot of times people can look at the pairs and decide which pair they need to choose from. Or no matter what you do with your signs, are you going to make a 10 and a 1 ever add to -3? No. Looking at these numbers, do you think you can manipulate your signs and make 5 and 2 add to -3? Yeah. So now let me give you a clue. One of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. I already know that. If I need them to add to -3, if you are putting two numbers together and you're going to end up negative, you're going to have more negative than you do positive, right? That's how you end up negative, is you have more negative. So which one of these numbers would need to go with your negative sign? If you need more negative, you would need a -5 and a +2. Multiplies to -10, yes. Or +2 plus -5 adds to -3. Okay, so that's what we did in 6.2. All of our trinomials started off with just plain x squared. The difference now with this 6.3 I don't know what's beeping about every minute, but something. Have you heard it since you've been in here?
No.
There's something that just it's like a smoke alarm battery that needs to be changed, but it's not that. I don't know what it is. So here's the difference. Still a trinomial, still has 3 terms. What's different about this trinomial than from the 6.2 material is that there is a number in front of x squared that's not a 1. That's what makes these the longer trinomials, the longer method. So just stick with me on the method. The first step is to multiply these outside two numbers together, just the numbers, not the x squareds or anything like that, just the numbers, but include the sign. So let's see, I've got a +2 times a +13, which gives me +26. We're gonna make a little chart. These numbers that I'm gonna put in here, it's kind of the same method that we did on those other ones, but now I don't care care about the 13 anymore. I don't care about what multiplies to equal 13. I'm doing it with this number. I need to know the ways to multiply to get 26, which is 26 times 1 and 13 times 2. Still looking for the pair that adds to the middle number. Always looking for the pair that adds to the middle number. Which one of these pairs adds to 27? 26 and 1 does. Both positives, right? If I'm going to multiply to equal positive 26 and add the same numbers together and equal 27, I need a positive 26 and a positive 1. Just stay with me on the process. We're going to do a lot of these to get more comfortable with it. Now, what you're going to do from here is you're going to put this number right here with an X as your denominator on both of those numbers. You're going to look at the two fractions that you just made and reduce any of them that reduce. Let's see, 1/2 is good, right? That won't reduce. But what about 26 over 2? That'll reduce to what? 13 over 1. Here's where your factors are coming from. Do you hear it? Here's where your factors are going to come from. What is in the bottom of this fraction now? 1 what? X. So just an X. What's in the top? Include the sign. What's in the bottom of this fraction? 2x. What's in the top? Include the sign. That's it. If you wanted to check yourself, you can check yourself. Remember in chapter 5, we would be given this as a problem and asked to FOIL, multiply that together, and end up here. So you can check yourself with that. Let's see. What is x times 2x? 2x squared, right? The x is turned squared since you have x times x. Then comes the outer. What's x times positive 1? Positive 1x. The inner. What's positive 13 times 2x? Positive 26x. What's this last right here? What's 13 times 1? Positive 13. Look at your middle two terms. Aren't they both x's? Which means they're like terms. So let's see, what am I going to be ending up with? 2x squared. If you put these x's together, 1 and 26 gives you 27x plus 13. Look what you started with. So what you have done is you have broken this down into the factors that were multiplied together to get this. Let's try another one, okay? So I just want to clarify this. This right here is the answer to this problem. What I did after this was check it to show you that you have broken this trinomial down into its factored parts. Let's look at another one. That's like number 1. Look at one like number 2. You've got 7u squared plus 48u minus 7. So it's a trinomial. It's got 3 terms, but it's different. It's the long method because there is a number in front of u squared. That's That is what tells you to multiply your outside numbers together, including the sign. So let's see, what do I have? I've got a positive 7 times a negative 7, which is negative 49. So now, I don't care about this number anymore. I want to find the ways, my table that I'm going to choose from, all the numbers have to multiply to negative 49. Let's not worry about our signs yet. Just give me the list of numbers that multiply to 49. 49 and 1, 7 and 7, right? Now, if you're multiplying to equal a negative, I do know that I have to have different signs, right? That's how you multiply to equal a negative, is with different signs. I need to use a pair from this table that adds to positive 48. So first of all, which pair are you going to use? Don't worry about the signs yet. If you're going to add to positive 48, which one of these pairs are you going to need to use? Right. You can't mess with a 7 and a 7 and make those add to 48. Doesn't matter what you do with the signs. Now, what kind of 48 do I need this pair to add to? No. I need it to add to positive 48, whatever this is. I need it to add to positive 48, which means if I'm going to add these two, remember, one's positive and one's negative. Who needs to be positive and who needs to be negative? If you're going to add this pair together and end up at positive 48, you're going to need a positive 49 minus 1, right? What is 49 minus 1? 48. That's what tells you where you're going to put those numbers. The 49 has to go with the positive. The 1 has to go with the negative. Do these two numbers do what they're supposed to do? Is positive 49 times negative 1, negative 49. Positive 49 plus negative 1, or in other words, 49 minus 1 is 48. Now, the step is, after that, you put them both over 7u. Just leave off the square. So 7u. Once you get these fractions, you need to see if either one of them, sometimes one, sometimes both, sometimes none, reduce. So let's see, will 49 over 7 reduce? Yeah. To 7 over 1. Hard to see the screen. What about negative 1/7? It will not reduce. Once you have reduced the fractions, that is where your factors come from. Bottom, then top. What's in the bottom of this fraction now? 1u, which is just u. What's in the top of the fraction, including the sign? Plus 7. Bottom of the fraction here, 7u. Top of the fraction, including the sign. So this one would be minus 1. And that's it. All right. We're going to do several of these. Now, I'm also going to show you something in your calculator. If you have trouble coming up with the right pair with the right signs. And we did a little bit of this on Thursday too.
Ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
A minute ago, you said something that I've been thinking about for a couple of weeks. You said, or in other words, 49 plus -1.
Okay.
Or in other words, -1.
If you, these two things say the same thing. Adding a negative and subtracting are the same thing.
Yeah, I fully comprehend that.
Okay, good.
My question is, why not, it would be a lot easier to learn algebra if you were taught that from,
It sure would.
why is that?
I agree with you. I think a lot more people would have less trouble with adding and subtracting numbers if they were taught from the very beginning that adding a negative to something is the same thing as subtracting from it. If you're adding something negative, you're just subtracting.
If all these rules were taught from the beginning, from whenever you start learning math, which I'm assuming is first or second grade, the upper skills, algebra, calculus, all these would be a lot easier to comprehend.
No, you're preaching to the choir here.
Wow, that just brings a whole new conversation.
But, you know, you gotta remember, first grade teachers got a whole lot of stuff to teach. They got a whole lot. They're teaching kids how to read, they're
We're trying to put
teaching
lipstick on a pig.
social skills. They got a lot of stuff to teach. Okay, let's try number 3. Now, the reason we have this other method to factor trinomials that have numbers in front of the m squared that are other than 1 is because, remember, so we'll come back to this one in just a second. Remember, what you're trying to do is kind of unfoil it, right? Well, it's easy to unfoil something that would multiply to x squared because there's only one way to do it. X and x is the only two things that you're going to put here that are going to make it multiply to x squared. There's no way around that, right? You're just automatically jumping to x and x if you start off with x squared. What about this, though? Let's say you just tried to jump to it. Let's see, am I going to use 4m and m? That's 4m squared. Or am I going to use 2m and 2m? That's 4m squared. Which one are you going to start off with? There are ways to do this. There's a trial and error kind of method. But the way that we're doing it is going to get you to the correct answer first time. Okay? Without having to refoil stuff to see if what you did worked. Okay? Now, think about it. That's just a 4. There's only 2 ways to multiply to get 4. 4 times 1 and 2 times 2. Think about if this is 36m squared. Are you going to use 36 and 1? You're going to use 18 and 2. You're going to use 12 and 3. You're going to use 9 and 4. You're going to use 6 and 6. All those multiply to 36. So that's why we have another method, right? You don't want to just start shooting in the dark, right? To try and equal this. So that's why we call these the good trinomials, right? Because if you're x squared, boom, you're x and x. There's no way other to do it. It just gets more complicated if there's a number in front of that, because there's more ways to be able to start off the problem. That's why we have this longer method. Even though it's longer, it's going to get you to your result on your first try. Just going to take more steps. So now, remember, so if there is a number in front of your squared term, your first step is to multiply your outsides. So what is that? Sign included. 4 times -5 gives me -20. That's what you're going to make your chart from. What are the ways to multiply? Don't worry about the sign yet. Let's list the ways to multiply to get 20. I always start off with the number that I'm trying to get times 1. Let's see. 10 times 2 gives me 20. What else? One more. Good. 5 times 4 also gives me 20. Now, you're multiplying to equal a negative number. Go ahead and put your signs in. You already know what your signs have to be. If you're going to multiply to equal a negative number, what kind of signs do you need? They just have to be different. One positive, one negative. Doesn't even matter where you put those. That's the only, you can either use negative positive or positive negative. But if you're going to multiply to equal a negative number, you're going to have different signs. Now, what do these two numbers that I'm going to put in here have to add to? You're always, always, always adding to the middle number. So they're going to have to add to negative 8. Don't worry about the negative. Let's first of all just see if we can find out which one of these pairs we're going to use. If you use 20 and 1, doesn't matter who's positive, who's negative, are you going to make that be negative 8? No, you can't make a 20 and a 1 be any kind of 8. What about 10 and 2? Can you manipulate your signs to make a 10 and a 2 be negative 8? Depends on what you're going to do with your signs. So, and then look at your last one. What about 5 and 4? You can't make that be an 8. So now we have located the pair that we're going to use. Now we need to decide who goes with the positive and who goes with the negative, right? Because my signs are different. So it's very important I know who goes with which sign. What kind of 8 are you trying to get? You're trying to get a negative 8. What that tells you is that you're going to need more negative than you do positive. If you're going to end up negative when you add two numbers together, the only way you're going to do that is if you have more negative than positive. So if I'm looking at this pair, who's bigger, 10 or 2? 10's bigger. Put the 10 with what you need more of. You need more negatives. Now, what are you going to put them both over? You just always put them over this first term, just without the squared. So you're putting them both over 4m.
And we divide it by 4m.
You're going to now reduce your fraction. Remember, if you're not good at reducing, your calculator will reduce for you. What can I do? 2 divided by 4. 2 divided by 4. Hit enter. It gives you a decimal, which means what do you tell your calculator to do? Math, enter, enter. Because it gives me 0.5. So if I hit math, remember the math button.
2 divided by 4.
Yep. Because that's what this says. Top number divided by bottom number. So what did it turn into? 2/4. When you reduce it, turns into what? 1/2. What about negative 10/4? If you're not comfortable, put it in. Negative 10 divided by 4 gives you a decimal. So what do you need to do? Math, enter, enter that decimal. Math, enter, enter it. What does that reduce to? Negative 5/2.
Can you tell me how they got there?
So 10/4. What number goes into 10 and 4? 2. How many times does 2 go into 10? How many times does 2 go into 4?
Oh, yeah. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And then.
And it's just negative because it was negative.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you've reduced your fractions. That's where your factors come from. What's in the bottom of this fraction now after you reduced it? 2m.
2m plus.
What's up top? Include the sign. Plus
1.
1. What's in the bottom of this one?
2m -5.
What's in the top? Include the sign. -5.
Okay. Can you do another one?
We're gonna do a whole bunch.
Just like this?
I hate this thing. What did you do?
So when I was reducing this fraction,
You said math, enter.
after you, no, do this first. So -10 divided by 4, this one. So 2 divided by 4. Now, math, hit the math button. Because what you don't want the decimal form of this. You just want to turn that decimal into a fraction. So, right. Yeah, anytime you divide in your calculator, if it doesn't end up as a whole number, it just defaults to give you the decimal. But you can turn all decimals into fractions with that calculator. If they're if they turn into fractions. I know, right?
I can't just add 2 numbers.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, 1. This one is.
So I did -10 divided by 4, and it gave me negative.
I don't even know how to make a -10.
The negative button's right under the 3. Divided by 4. Does it give you a decimal? Did you hit enter?
Enter.
So that turned that -2.5 into -5/2.
See, keep the sign though, right?
Yep.
If it's 2 negative, right? If it's 2
Well, all you're doing is reducing a fraction. So if you're reducing a negative number, it's not going to change the sign. It's just going to reduce it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, here's where I'm, this, all the upper stuff I get, I'm not sure how to put it in the answer form.
When you put it in the computer as your answer,
Yeah,
just those.
so you go,
What was in the bottom of your first fraction after you reduced it?
2n.
So that goes in the front of your first parenthesis. What's in the top of that fraction? Include the sign.
Plus 1.
+1, close, open.
Is there a?
Oh, no comma, no, just another parenthesis, the bottom of that one.
Let me do this.
Okay.
2n. -5.
That's it.
Bonus.
Yep.
Mm.
Let's look at number 4. Same thing. We're just doing this process over and over. 6r squared minus 19r plus 10. So there's a number in front of r squared, which means multiply it times that outside number, which is 6 times positive 10 is positive 60. Y'all, there's a lot of ways to multiply to get positive 60. So let me show you another trick in your calculator. Now, you may just want to go, there's a lot, right? A lot of ways to multiply to get 60.
Then we're gonna have to come up with 19, so it's gonna be positive 3 minus 20.
Wait, hang on.
Uh,
Let's think about what your signs would be first. How do you multiply to equal a positive? Oh, positive. A negative and a negative will do it. What else will do it?
I mean, positive.
They just decide, if you're going to multiply to equal a positive, your signs just have to be the same as each other. So now, so I don't know exactly what my signs are going to be yet. I just know that they're either both going to be positive or they're both going to be negative if I'm going to multiply to equal positive 60. But what are you going to have to add? Those same two numbers are going to have to add to what? What kind of 19?
Negative 19.
Can you add two positives together and equal a negative?
No.
Can you add two negatives together and equal a negative? Adding.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You know that both of your signs are going to have to be negative. That's the only way that your signs are going to work. Now, your signs are the same. You know that. They are the same and they're both negatives. What am I trying to add to? Am I going to ever make, using two negative numbers, so let's just, okay, so you know now. Doesn't matter what, both of your signs of your pair are going to be negatives. Which one of these gives me negative 19?
15.
Multiplies to positive 60. Yeah, a negative times a negative is a positive 60. If you add negative 15 to negative 4, you get negative 19. Let me show you something in your calculator, especially on problems where you are not sure about your signs. Hit the y equals button. And if there's anything in there, hit clear. So whatever this number is, put it in your y equals. So since it's 60 and it's positive, which means you don't have to put positive 60 to mean positive 60. You just have to put 60. So we're going to put 60, then hit divided by.
Did you hit the y equals 1060?
Yeah, y equals. Then you're going to hit the X, and the X button, the button that gives you the X is this button right here. It's got a bunch of X's and a bunch of other stuff on it. X, T, that one. If you hit that, it gives you an X. So 60 divided by X, and this button right here is the one that gives you the X. Now hit the second button, because what I'm going to show you is that you can make your calculator make this table for you. So hit the second button with the like 2 ND on it. Now look at the very top right button. See what the blue part of it is? Or yours may be a different color. It says table. Hit that. Look what it does for you. It gives you those 2 columns that you just made. Every single one of the pairs multiplies to positive 60. So you made your calculator make this table for you. I may even let's show you how to cheat one more step.
And then so basically you just gotta figure out what's gonna equal in the middle part.
I'm about to show you how to make the calculator do it.
Okay, then.
So now go back to y equals. Go down to the second one. So y2. So here's what you're going to do. So that was y1. Here's y2. You're going to type in the same exact thing. 60 divided by x. And then you're going to put plus x right after it.
And then he grabbed.
60 divided by x plus x.
And then he grabbed.
And then hit table. How do you get to table? Second. You hadn't messed up. You just graphed it, which you don't need. Just hit the second button and table. Now, look at your third column. You know what that third column does? It adds the first 2 columns together. Which means in that third column, you're looking for negative 19. You can scroll up and down. Scroll up and down until you find negative 19 in that third column. So once I find this negative 19, look at the first 2 columns. What are the numbers that make that negative 19? What are the numbers that go with that negative 19?
4 and 15.
Both.
Negative.
-4 and -15. It does this for you. Get your signs right for you. It does everything you want it to do. The first two when you set up this first thing right here, it says, okay, I'm telling my calculator to make a table, and I need all the numbers to multiply to 60. Both sign ways. Then this Y thing that you typed into the second Y says, okay, now you've made all these numbers that multiply to equal 60. Now I want you to make a column right after that adds those two numbers together. Because what do you want to do? You want these two numbers that multiply to equal 60 to also add to negative 19, which ended up being negative 15 and negative 4, because that's the hardest part, is coming up with the pair that will do both things that you needed to do and get your signs right in the process. It'll do it all for you. So now once you come up with that pair, then it's all the same steps every time. Put it over 6R. Reduce your fractions. Make your calculator do that too. So do second quit. So hit the second button, and then right next to the second button, there's a quit. Second quit. That's fine. That's fine. You just graphed it. You didn't mess up. Now just hit second.
Okay, so.
You just didn't hit the second button first. So there's your table.
So this one right here.
So you would scroll up. So right here, so there's negative 19, which means that's the pair you use, which is negative 4 and negative 15.
Did I do this right?
So math enter those fractions. So what's my first fraction? Negative 15 divided by 6. Which is a fraction, a decimal. So math enter that. Second.
Hit quit. So next to the second, hit quit. So click second and then hit quit.
Hit second. This button and you have the right next. That takes you back to your home screen. So you would do negative 15 divided by 6. Math enter it, which will give you negative 5 over 2. Then you're going to do negative 4, because I need to reduce it too. Negative 4 divided by 6, which gives you another decimal. So math enter that decimal to reduce that fraction to negative 2/3. That is where your answer comes from.
Yeah, now that's how. Okay.
What's in the bottom? Now that you've reduced your fraction, what's in the bottom of this fraction?
So 2R.
2R. What's in the top? Include the sign.
-5.
-5.
Okay.
What's in the bottom of this
So
fraction?
R -2.
That's right.
Okay.
-2.
Okay.
What did you say? Oh.
Yeah, negative is under the 3. Yeah.
I saw.
Divided by 6. That's right.
So when we do this, we always do the outside, right?
Now, yes.
Now what?
Now, number 5 has something we need to do a little bit first. We need to fix it. Because what does 5 look like? It has 8 plus 14b plus 3b squared.
Was that last one 2R -5, 1R -2? R -5.
So,
1R.
no, 3R. That's a 3. 3R. Right, you wrote 3. You're just saying 1. Negative 2/3. So there's a 3R in the bottom of that.
What?
Now, when I'm looking at this one, my terms are not in the right order yet. You want your terms to have the exponents to be in descending order. This should look a little bit different than the other ones you've done. All the other ones you've done, hasn't your x squared or whatever letter they're using been the first term? That's what needs to be. So who needs to go up front? 3b squared.
So you gotta rewrite it. Okay.
Then your b, so plus 14b. And then your constant, which is plus 8. So you just need to rearrange the terms to be in the correct order. Now, here, I'm going to pause it. So let's see, you did positive 3 times positive 8, which is positive 24.
Right.
If you're using the y equals method to find these numbers, signs correct and everything for you, you're putting in your first y equals, you're putting 24 divided by x. In your second y equals, you're putting 24 divided by x plus x. Okay, so if you did the last one, you still got 60s in there. So turn those 60s into 24s. So now you should have 24 in there. Then second table. Then after you do that, you're looking in this last column over here for this number, which is positive 14. There's my positive 14 all the way down here at the bottom on mine, which means I need to use 12 and 2, both positive. So positive 12, positive 2. Does it do, what two things are these numbers supposed to do? They're supposed to multiply to 24, which they do, and they're supposed to add to 14, which they do.
Right.
Put them both over
3b.
3b.
So I got 4 plus 12 divided by 3 is 4.
Right, so this turns into 4 over 1, or just 4.
And then for the other one, I got 2 over 3.
So it's already in reduced form. 2/3 it just is all the way reduced. That's where your answers come from. What's in the bottom of this first fraction now that it's reduced?
So 1b,
Which is just
b,
B.
plus 4.
up top, plus 4.
And then 3b plus 2. So a quick
That's it.
question. So do we put this in that box like that?
Yeah, you put the parentheses. Yep. Yep, you just open, you put it in just like that. Open parentheses, b plus 4, close. Open parentheses, 3b plus 2, close. Okay.
Oh, I put the wrong thing in. I put the 14 instead of the 3b, and that gives you a totally different.
Oh, yeah, as your denominator. Yeah, so this right here, whatever this is your denominator to both of those.
Okay. Well, if you
That's an
put
easy
the
fix.
14 there, it's 7b plus 6 and 7b plus 1. If you put anybody slice that.
So did I do that? Okay. This is my number 5,
So rearrange positive 15, 5 and 3 gives you 8. Those positives.
right?
These are both, I would put pluses there so you just know your signs in a minute. Now, reduce that 3 over. What is 3 over 3 reduced to? 1 over 1.
Yeah.
Then the other one doesn't reduce.
No.
So you're going to have a plus 1, and then whatever that other one is.
3a plus 5.
Right.
Okay, girl.
Okay, number 6 has something new.
Oh, Lord. Them M's are giving me.
I know. I wish they would just use X's all the time. but-
because of 330.
Well, it's not new. It's different than what we've been doing before. Remember, it comes from what we've learned in 6.1 and 6.2. We can't forget. The very first thing, if your instructions are to factor, your very first thing you look for every single time is something in common. If there is a greatest common factor, you've got to pull it out first. And what tips me off that there is something in common is that they all have M's. So I know I'm at least going to pull something out. Now, what about the numbers? Let's see. 3 goes into 3 and 3. So I know it goes into both of those. Does 3 also go into 330? If you're not sure, divide 330 by 3 in your calculator, and it's going to give you a whole number, and not a decimal, which means 3 goes into all of them,
Right.
which means you have to pull
3M.
3 out and then the M out. Put in parentheses what is left. This is 6.1, which means how do you find out what is left?
You divide by 3.
Everything what you pulled out is what you're going to divide all the terms by. So I'm dividing everybody by 3M.
That's just like that other chapter.
It doesn't go away, ever. Greatest common factor does not ever go away. Now here, this kind of helps us a lot. What's left here? If I pulled out the 3, I had M to the third, and I pulled out one of those M's, which means all I'm left with is M squared. Plus, I pulled out the 3.
So it's going to be M.
Right, I had M squared and pulled out one of them, so I just have one M left.
Yes. And then it's going to be 110.
Minus
110.
110, and I pulled out that M. Close. Now, here's the good thing about this. Once I pulled out this 3M, look at your leading term now. What's in front of it?
M.
Just a 1M squared, which means that's not the long kind of trinomial that we've been doing today. That's the shorter kind, right? I can jump straight to M and M because that's the only way to multiply to get M squared. I don't have to worry about other ways like I would with 4 or 6 or 36. There's no other way to get M squared besides M and M. Then what are you doing? Finding, y'all, I don't want to find ways to multiply to equal negative 110 on my own.
Also, you do it the same way?
Sure, why not? I want to find, remember, this is the 6.2 method. Now I'm looking for numbers that multiply to equal negative 110 and add to equal, what's this number in front of that, M?
1.
That add to equal positive 1. That's when I can do this. I need to tell my calculator that I need to make 2 columns, and I need the 2 columns to multiply to equal negative 110. How do you tell your calculator that? You go to y equals, and you clear it out. My first y, I need to put in negative 110 divided by x. Remember, the negative button is below the 3. Negative 110 divided by x. Then go down to the second one. What do you put in the second one? The same thing you put in the first one, just put a plus x after it. Negative 110 divided by x plus x. Then hit the second button. Because what do you want to see? You want to see the table. So second table. Now, you're always looking in the very last column. Okay, hit now. Have you done both of them? You've done 2? Y1 and Y2? In Y2, you're going to put this negative 110 divided by x plus x. Then you're gonna hit second table. What are you looking for in your last column?
1.
Positive 1. So it looks like I'm having to go up.
So negative 1, negative 1, 10,
Nope, negative.
negative 1 on 9.
So if I need a positive 1, that's what I'm looking for in my last column. What numbers go with the positive 1? What numbers make positive 1? 11 and negative 10. Is that what's with your positive 1?
Oh, you went to the last.
Last column. Always go into the last column looking for this number. Once you find that number in the last column, the 2 columns that are right before that give you the 1 are the numbers that go here. And what did we see that those were? Positive 11 and negative 10. Now, why, if I put just that in, is it going to mark it wrong? What did I not include in my answer?
This one?
No, that's negative 1. You need positive 1, so go up. Now you're getting into your positives. Keep going up. You're looking for positive 1 over here. There it is. So now what are you going to use? There's your positive 1, negative 10 plus 11.
Okay.
Okay, after I get those two, Y2 and Y1 entered,
Now hit second table, which is the top right, most right. It says graph on it.
okay.
But since you hit the second button, that gets you to the function that is right above the button.
I hit it many times. Now back at that graph.
Okay, so hit second. Now, look in your red column for positive 1. So you need to go up, right? Because here's your negatives, there's your positives. You need to go up that way. Here's your positive 1. So what numbers go with it? 11.
Can I ask why we're doing negative?
Because this was a negative number. You put in whatever number that is. This 3M that I pulled out at the beginning is part of your answer.
Right.
It goes down in front of that. Right? You pulled it out. You pulled out the greatest common factor, so it's there. All right, now we're going to look at a problem like number 7. We've got negative 12 z to the 5th plus 10z to the 4th plus 8z to the 3rd.
Well, we know Z is.
So that tips me off that there's stuff in common.
Right.
So are my terms in the right order, which means do you start with the highest exponent and go down?
Right.
You do, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But my terms are in the right order and my first term is negative. You don't want to start off with the negative when you're trying to factor, which means you're going to pull that negative out along with whatever else is in common. So we'll do our z's in a minute. Let's look at our numbers. 12, 10, and 8. What number goes into those? 2 does. So I'll pull out a negative 2. How much z can you pull out? This one has z to the 5th. This one has z to the 4th. This one has z to the 3rd. We can pull out as much as the smallest one has. I can pull out z to the 3rd from all of them. I can't pull out z to the 5th from all of them because I'd be stuck here. They don't have enough to pull out z to the 5th.
Right.
They don't have that much. But they all have z to the 3rd. So you just pull out whatever the smallest exponent is. So I'm pulling out z to the 3rd. This is one where I would definitely write what you pulled out underneath each one, right? Because what are you going to put in the parentheses? What's left after you've pulled out negative 2z to the 3rd from each one of them. And then you find that by dividing by whatever this is. So I'm dividing everybody by negative 2z to the 3rd.
And then when you
Watch your signs.
when you divide, you got to subtract those exponents, right?
You're gonna subtract your exponents. So let's divide. What's -12 divided by -2? 6
square, 6z squared.
Right, I had 5, I pulled out 3, so I'm left with Z2.
Plus,
Not what, what's a positive divided by a negative?
and then
So it's gonna, when you pull out this negative from everybody, it's gonna change everybody's signs because you're gonna divide them by a negative now. So what's positive 10 divided by -2 is -5.
-5.
How much Z do you have left here?
Z,
Just one, right?
Mhm.
I had 4 and I pulled 3 out, so I have Z left.
and then minus
Positive 8 divided by -2 is -4. Do you have any Z's?
No.
No. Now, this one's different than that last one, but this is more like what we've been doing today. It's different. I can't jump straight to my parentheses because I've got 6Z squared instead of just Z squared. So I can't jump to Z and Z like I could on that last one. This is the long kind, right? If you have a trinomial and there's still a number in front of it, that's when you have to multiply the outsides.
So it's gonna be 24.
What kind of 24? Use your signs.
-24.
Make your chart.
Oh,
So what number goes in your y equals in your calculator?
-24.
This one. So I'm putting my first y equals, I put in -24 divided by x. My second y equals, I'm putting -24 divided by x plus x. Once you put that in your calculator, here, let me do it on here. So I'm going to my y equals and I'm clearing out whatever my last problem was.
So
Hang on, let me put it in for here. So I'm putting those two things in my y equals. So -24 divided by x in the first one. In the second one, -24 divided by x plus x in the second one. What am I trying to look? I'm looking for the table, right?
yeah.
So second graph, because that puts me up into that function that's right above the button, which is table. So here's my table. You're automatically going to this last column. And what are you looking for in the last column? Whatever this number is, which is -5. Oops, wrong column. -5 is right here, which means you use the two numbers that make the -5, which is +3 and -8. +3, -8.
And you're gonna divide it by 2.
Now, what do you put? What's this right here? 6Z.
Oh, because we multiplied the CZ and the 4.
What? Yeah. So we need to reduce our fractions. What is 3/6 reduced to? If you do 3 divided by, now remember, you go to get out of your table, hit second, quit to get back to your home screen.
So it's gonna be 1/2.
Right, so I need to do 3 divided by 6. So 3 divided by 6, enter. Then turn your decimal to a fraction. So math, enter, enter. So that's going to reduce to 1/2. So 1/2.
So 2Z plus 1.
So the other one's -8 divided by 6. So -8 divided by 6. Again, it's going to give you a decimal. So math, enter, enter your decimal. Math, enter, enter. There's what that one reduces to, which is -4/3. So now let's make our parentheses. From those reduced fractions, what's this parentheses going to be?
2Z
2Z
plus 1.
plus 1.
And then 3Z minus 4.
Right. 3Z minus 4. Now, what did you pull out at the very beginning that is part of your answer?
Negative 2z to the third.
Negative 2z to the third goes in front of it. Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, we're still going to do 8 and 9 though. I may just have to make a separate recording, not live, for 6.4 because we got to get it in this week. But here's the thing, 6.4 is 6.3. It's just more of it. So it's not anything new. It's just more of this kind of factoring. So I'll still make a video for it and put it in your week 11 folder. It's just going to be more of the same stuff though. Exactly same stuff. Look at number 8. Let's get through 8 and 9. 30p squared.
Dang, yours started off large.
91pq minus 30q squared. So we are seeing something a little different. I see p's and q's. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to work it just like we have been. Okay? When you're talking about your exponents being in descending order, that just means if you start off with a p squared, your p's have to go down from there. So p squared to p to no p. So they're in a fine order. Okay? Also, I would look, there's not anything in common with all of them because they don't all have p or they don't all have q. So I can't pull out a p or a q. Also, I can't pull out any numbers because everything that goes into 30 obviously goes into 30. But none of those numbers go into 91, I don't think.
1 times 91.
Besides a 1, which goes into everything. But if you pull out a 1 and divide everybody by 1, what do you have? You still have all the same stuff.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by doing the long method here. So what do I have? I've got 30 times negative 30, which gives me what? Negative 900. Let me tell you, the last thing in the world I want to try and figure out is all the ways to multiply to get negative 900. This is where your calculator earns its due. It will do that for you. What do you put? You put in the first y equals, whatever that is, negative 900 divided by x. In the second y equals, you do the same thing. Negative 900 divided by x plus x.
And we're trying to get that middle number.
What's the middle number?
91.
That's what you're going to look for in your third column once you get everything in your y equals. So go to your y equals and clear it all out again.
Negative.
Whoops.
I thought negative 9 and 100.
So negative 900 divided by x. In the first one, go down. Same thing. Negative 900 divided by x plus x. After you put your two things in, what do you want to see? You want to see a table, right? That's what you need to tell your calculator. How do you tell your calculator you want to see the table? Second table. Look in your last column over here. What are you looking for? Whatever that middle number is, you're looking for 91.
I thought negative 9 and 1.
Here's my 91. What numbers make 91? What are the numbers right next to 91? Positive 100, negative 9. Positive 100, negative 9. If you multiply those two numbers together, they equal negative 900. 100 plus negative 9 or 100 minus 9 is 91. Your calculator figured it out for you.
And we divide that by
What do you put them over?
30.
30p. Gosh, I don't even want to mess with reducing those. Math enter those fractions. What do you put? So go to, remember, get out of your table by second, quit. Get you back to your home page. You can clear it all out if you want. What's my first fraction? 100 divided by 30. Enter. There's your decimal. What do you do with your decimals? Math. Enter them. What does that reduce to? Now math enter that. Hit the math button and then hit enter twice to turn that decimal into a fraction. Oh, you're just saying? It reduces to 10 thirds. What about negative 9 over 30? Do the same thing there. Negative 9 divided by 30. Gives you that decimal. Math, enter that. Negative 3/10. Now, what is this first one going to be? 3p plus 10. What's this one going to be? 10p minus 3. Now, here's the thing. What needs to go on this 10 and 3? Because this doesn't, it needs to do two things. It needs to multiply to negative 30, which it does. Here's where the Q is going to come in. I need these to multiply to negative 30q squared, which means what just needs to go on that 10 and 3? Q's.
Okay.
So that's your answer. Let's foil this one just to show if I multiply this together, I get all this. Let's see that happen. A lot of times it makes things make sense if you see that happen. Here's your answer. Let's foil it. Remember how to foil? My first, 3p times 10p. 30p squared. I'm just I'm checking it. Just showing you that what you did was accurate. That's right. What's your outside? What's 3p times negative 3q?
Negative 9.
Negative 9 what? PQ. What's after outer?
10 and 10.
Right? What's that going to give you? 10 times 10 gives me positive 100 PQ? QP? However you want to write it?
QP.
Okay, that's how you want to do it?
Yeah.
You just need to realize, okay, go ahead, keep going. No, you're fine.
And then 10 times negative 3.
Gives you negative 30 QQ, so Q squared. Look at your middle terms.
Yep.
That's a PQ, and so is this. It doesn't matter that the P and Q aren't in the right order. What is it? Negative 9 plus 100 PQs is 91 PQs.
That's correct.
Yep.
So I got a question. So when I put this in the table, we're looking for the middle number.
That's right. In the last column.
Okay, well,
So you would be looking for 91 in that last column. Let's do this last one because I got to stop this video because it's already 10 minutes too long. But then I'll help y'all. 12s squared minus 13st minus 4t squared. Ooh. So nothing's in common. That 13 messes me up, right? I can't pull anything out of 12, 13, and 4. They don't all have S's because this one doesn't have any S. And they don't all have T's because this one doesn't have any T's. So you can't pull anything out. I am going to multiply my outside numbers together. So 12 times -4 gives me -48. It's not as bad as the last one. It's not 900. But I still don't want to, there's still a lot of ways to multiply to get 48. So I can make my calculator do it for me. So what am I putting in my y equals?
-48.
-48 divided by x. And the other one I'm going to put -48 divided by x plus x. That's
So we're
42.
looking for -13.
You're negative for -13 in your last column.
So 3 and -16.
Okay. So if I go to my y equals, clear it out. So I'm all clear, put in -48 divided by x.
And then you divide them by.
-48 divided by x plus x, so that your y equals look like that. Then you want to see the table. So second table. In this last column, you're looking for that middle number, which is -13. So it looks like I need to go up a little bit in this column, because it's getting negative. There it is, -13, which means I need to use +3 and -16.
And then you're gonna divide by 12.
12s.
12. Oh, I got mine back. Is that okay?
Maybe. Oh, yeah, as long as your 16 is negative and your 3 is positive. You can have your +3 here and your -16 there. Doesn't matter which side they're on, the 16 just has to be negative and the 3 has to be positive.
Okay, so I have.
So math enter this. Let's see, this will return into what? -4/3.
4/3. And the other one is.
Positive
1/4.
1/4.
So 3s minus 4.
3s minus 4.
Parentheses. Wait, drop your 12 is squared, right?
Hang on. Yeah, you're gonna do it in just a second. Hang on, what's this one gonna be?
4s plus 1.
Now, this is the one where what do these have to equal? Instead of just -4, they need to equal -4t squared. So what goes on these?
T.
To get your t squareds. Okay, so I am gonna make a 6.4 video and put it in your week 11 folder. Again, it's nothing new. It's more of this same stuff.